The automotive industry continues to face significant challenges. We have a growing shortage of skilled auto mechanics, vehicles are becoming more advanced, the need for technicians proficient in diagnostics, repair, and emerging technologies like electric vehicles, and not only affect the industry's efficiency, but also presents unique opportunities for those willing to adapt and learn. I know the current mechanics are underpaid. I know they are overworked. And I know from personal experience that they are unappreciated and underappreciated. In recent years, the rapid advancement of automotive technology has outpaced the training and availability of qualified mechanics. Traditional mechanical skills are no longer sufficient. Today's vehicles, whether trains, planes, or automobiles, require expertise in electronics, software, and integrated systems. This gap between technological evolution and workforce readiness has led to a pressing demand for skilled mechanics. If you're an aspiring mechanic or currently in the field, now is the time to upskill and embrace new technologies. The industry needs professionals who can move around the complexities of modern vehicles. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this feature from CNBC.
Aircraft mechanics have a very important job. They keep the thousands of airplanes flying every day safe. But experts say there's a critical shortage of aviation maintenance technicians that can't keep up with growing demand.
It's already impacting the ability to grow. An aircraft is on the ground and I don't have a mechanic to fix it.
The fatal accident between an American Airlines regional jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter in Washington, D.C., has cast a light on how much pressure there is on an already strained industry where the slightest of variables determine safety. Boeing estimates that 716,000 technicians are needed worldwide to maintain the global air fleet over the next 20 years.
Let me pause right there to announce fair use. I can't do much about the music. It's actually in their particular video and in this particular video. And the funniest thing, I have to give thanks to them. This video only has a few thousand views. Normally, their videos are in the millions, but it's still younger days. But we can't overemphasize this hard enough of how the industry is actually reeling from the lack of qualified mechanics. Let's continue.
It's strong and it'll be strong for years, plural, and that is all driven by more people flying.
The current shortage of AMTs in the U.S. will reach roughly 25,000 workers by 2028. And as more people and goods fly, the global air fleet is expected to grow, adding nearly 46,000 new aircraft between now and 2043.
Boeing 777 bound for Japan had a wheel fall off during takeoff.
2024 brought increased attention to aircraft maintenance, with airlines losing tires or pieces of planes mid-flight, and especially the near catastrophe with Alaska Airlines after Boeing didn't reinstall bolts that hold the door plug in place. The Federal Aviation Administration has also struggled with staffing shortages and funding in recent years.
Hence, in the last couple of weeks, or the last 3 months, we have seen an increase or an uptick in the amount of airplanes, aircrafts having technical difficulties and even involved in accidents. I'm not saying mechanic shortage is the main cause of this, but it is also a factor because they don't have enough personnel going around to actually inspect these vehicles. We now have vehicles equipped with advanced driver assistance, which is ADAS, Integrated Vehicle Health Management Systems, IVHM, the new aircrafts that are coming in now with modified systems. It still needs personnel and engineer with mechanical experience to actually service these things. When I say ADAS technologies, it involves adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assistance, and automated parking, relying on a network of sensors and cameras all around. Maintaining and repairing these systems require a deep understanding of electronics, software, and diagnostics. Let's continue.
Carry a responsibility with them that one mistake could injure or kill hundreds.
These go on aircraft that fly millions of people every day. We're there to keep people safe.
Companies like GE Aerospace and aircraft maintenance schools are working to train the next generation of AMTs.
It feels like it's such an honor and a privilege to work on something like this, a machine that flies.
CNBC visited GE in Lafayette, Indiana, and Aviation High School in Queens, New York, to explore the challenges facing the aviation industry and how it plans to keep up with the demand for mechanics and technicians.
And the funniest thing about all this is that even the dealerships underground, car dealerships, are facing this particular incident. One report I brought, well, several reports I actually covered on this channel. One that stood out in particular, Parkside Toyota, who they had to be collaborating with the high school within the area to ensure that they offer scholarships and training programs and work experiences from the high school straight into the dealership to expose the young men and young women in the importance of being a mechanic and how their skills and trades are needed. But somehow that got lost along the way. Let's continue.
The U.S. aviation maintenance industry is a $65 billion business that employs roughly the work done by an AMT can vary from overhauling an entire plane to specific sections or components. The majority of the workforce is in repair shops and parts manufacturing, and 23% work for airlines. A shortage of AMTs could slow down production or lead to delays, cancellations, even fewer flights. But these workers are also crucial to the global supply chain, military, and emergency services like aerial firefighting. The pandemic brought a sharp drop in air travel. At one point, over 16,000 commercial jets were grounded, and thousands of experienced technicians and machinists were laid off or retired.
People forget that the aerospace industry was in a pretty serious ramp at the time pre-COVID. And it, frankly, of course, overnight, we went from ramping to zero demand over time. And so we lost a lot of talent.
GE dominates the commercial engine space when combined with its joint venture with Safran CFM International. The CFM 56 is the best-selling jet engine in history. It powers more than 14,000 commercial and military aircraft, while its new LEAP engines power more than 3,500. The company said it's been able to hire back quickly, but that the aerospace supply chain still hasn't fully recovered. A single jet engine on a commercial aircraft can be made up of 40,000 components.
We need everything to be healthy. Everyone be back up to full strength. So often it's our tier 2, tier 3 suppliers that are still in that process and may have some of that risk yet that they haven't seen flow through their workforce.
And the funniest thing about all this is that I'm reporting underground mechanics as well as the aviation mechanics through these videos, because mechanics must be adept to calibrating sensors and interpreting data to ensure they're functioning properly and correctly, not to mention the shift towards electric vehicles, representing a significant change in the automotive technology. Mechanics must be trained to handle these components safely and effectively, requiring specialized knowledge in electrical engineering principles. Now, what this actual video is showing, that you can start off as a mechanic underground and then you transition into aviation and so many other areas that your mechanic trade can take you. Whether aviation, whether repairing, going on the ship to be a repair person on that particular ship, an engineer. You can go into locomotive engineer, and also you can go into being an elevator mechanic. You can go into being a plant engineer working at a factory, or you can go into heavy duty trucking. There are so many facets to being a mechanic, but you have to start somewhere and then look at the end goal. Let's continue this video.
The number of new mechanic certificates rose 32% in 2023, but the overall number of certified mechanics has stayed near the same level over the past 20 years.
The blue-collar segment of our population has declined, and now aviation seeks and oftentimes needs the best, highest caliber technicians that can then be turned into certificated mechanic or repairman.
The FAA has specialized certificates on who can perform and approve maintenance before a part or a plane is approved to fly.
The work of non-certificated people has to be supervised by certificated people, and certificated people have to approve for return to service.
If a maintenance issue does occur, certified individuals or the company could be fined. The process to get certified for these positions can take years depending on the specific job. GE said that a technician working at its Lafayette, Indiana facility makes an average of $80,000 to $90,000 a year in base pay.
And they walk through the front door. Our training is not over. In fact, it goes on for years, many cases at GE Aerospace and a lot of our peer companies before they're fully formed, fully efficient.
Each facility can perform maintenance on what it's been
Yeah, and that's the beauty about this particular skill is that the integration of certain technologies widen the gap between the skills possessed by the current workforce and those required by modern vehicles. So you have to stay adept in what is going on in terms of how the technology changes. Traditional automotive training programs often lag in incorporating emerging technologies into their curriculum. And this delay results in new graduates who are not fully prepared to handle the latest vehicle systems. Additionally, continuous education opportunities for existing mechanics are limited, making it challenging for them to upskill. Let's continue.
Approved for, which the FAA breaks down into different categories, airframe and power plant, which refer to aircraft and engines. They are also known as A&P licenses.
That's your license to learn. You don't know anything about a 737 or an Airbus or a 777 when you get your A&P license.
American Airlines has the world's largest commercial aircraft maintenance facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
So when we bring them in, we certainly put them through a lot of training over the course of their first few years, and then that training continues through the rest of their career.
Commercial airlines have to complete a continued airworthiness maintenance program to ensure aircraft are airworthy and safe for passengers throughout an aircraft's life.
Line maintenance manages the active airplanes that we're flying revenue passengers for every day. When you look at base maintenance, we're behind the scenes. We take the heavier work, and no different than changing the oil in your car or rotating the tires. We have similar tasks that we have to do. But instead of just a handful on your car, we have thousands. And those thousands of tasks are accomplished over the course of the life of the aircraft. And so over the course of 20 years, you may see a heavy maintenance event 4, 5, even 6 times.
Big airlines like American and aerospace manufacturers like Airbus, Boeing.
And the thing is, I've worked with individuals in the past who have gone on from the dealerships into the aviation sector. There's one individual who stood out, and he's now a maintenance manager at a major airport in another country. And then here in Toronto, I've worked with at least 3 other mechanics at the last dealership I've worked with, and they're now working at Pearson International Airport here in Mississauga, Toronto, Mississauga. So the stepping stone is actually there, and all of them, they're all happy. And they said they are happy and they are grateful for the experience that they got working at the dealership to where they are now. The only regret they had was that they didn't get into aviation sooner, but nothing happens before the time.
And GE have had apprentice programs for decades to recruit new talent.
No, I was just kind of looking for that next thing, next challenge, for myself. And it's like, well, automotive stuff's cool, but working on jet engines, that's, pretty awesome too.
Crystal Godinez is part of the first graduating class from GE Aerospace's newest apprentice program in Lafayette, Indiana. At this facility, the company assembles and repairs LEAP 1A and LEAP 1B engines that are used on the Airbus A320neo and Boeing 737 MAX planes.
Working on aircraft engines, like turbine engines, is definitely different than working on automotive. You're working with a lot of parts, a lot of bigger things.
Commercial aviation is a long cycle business and requires making a lot of decisions years in advance, including hiring.
It is not a spigot where you just turn on the tap and you have a ready now fully functional aerospace employee that's going to work in the factory.
Airlines and manufacturers also partner with technical schools to ensure it will have enough AMTs in the future.
Yeah, but the thing is, the vehicle manufacturers, for instance, Boeing know he's going to get into this, and industry stakeholders, they play a critical role in this skills gap. It doesn't matter how many collaborations there are between manufacturers, educational institutions, and industry associations. The industry needs a monetary boost in salary and benefits. That's where the bottom line is. They're going to go into it a little further. Let's continue.
pandemic was kind of winding down. There's an increasing demand for more programs like this.
Aviation High School in Queens, New York has been teaching airplane maintenance to students for 89 years.
We get 4,000 applicants for 500 seats across the 5 boroughs, where they spend multiple periods a day working in their aviation maintenance classroom alongside aviation maintenance teachers who are FAA certified. They've worked in the airlines, they have the experience, and a great majority of those teachers graduated from the school.
I'm gonna start working with the airline as I go to college to get my associate's degree in aviation maintenance, and then I'm gonna transfer to a more bigger college to get my engineering degree.
I actually want to end up as a pilot when I'm older, and I'm using this as a stepping stone because mechanics, they make a decent amount of money, especially when you're fresh out of high school. And I feel like I could use that to pay for my flight training.
Typically, you go to the regional airlines first. Lately, because of the huge technician need, there's been more students going directly into American, Delta, United.
Still, the industry faces challenges with hiring. While working for an airline may be the most visible version of these jobs, they only employ 23% of the AMTs in the US.
Aerospace.
Because the thing is, there's so many facets to this situation. Lance Mechanics, another YouTuber, you can check out his YouTube channel. He's also here in Ontario. He speaks about this in terms of the school system, the mechanic school system, the skills, the schools that actually teach skill trades. They are no longer interested in educating people. Everything is now for profit. I remember the day when a particular individual will be promoted or they landed a major position at, say, for instance, a 500 Fortune company. And the school will actually put out a communication congratulating this particular individual as being an alumni of the school. They will actually put an ad out trying to convince you why you should choose them because they will give you the opportunity to add value to society. You don't see that anymore. Most individuals who are running schools, they're much more like today's politicians, but I won't get into the political part. They are for profits and they want to ensure that they have the highest returns for their shareholders and stakeholders. They don't care much about how many people are graduating with honors and masters and everything else under the sun. They just want to know that they're meeting their numbers, they're meeting payroll. That is why you have results like these right now. And the tuition keeps increasing, and in order to get certain things, offset certain things, then they go to the government, offset a budget, and the cycle continues. One perfect example is here in Canada, when they offered so many student visa programs for international students coming in. When the government decided that they're going to restructure the student visa program, the first one to hit out were the schools and colleges, saying that they're going to have to close down because the numbers won't allow them to keep their doors open. So what's more important, keeping the doors open or trying to ensure that people want to come to your school to get the quality education that is needed in order to uplift society? I know it's a long debate, but you have to look into a lot of the information that is there.
Is just a fascinating industry that is only a small portion driven by airlines.
Experts, the average age of a certified mechanic in the US is 54, and 40% are over the age of 60. Only 2.8% are women.
Trying to warn people about this 30 years.
Look at the statistics there. It's still a male-dominated space. And if you look at it, who are the ones you have to try to convince to take up the slack of the generation who are near retirement? Women have been free to choose what they want to do for the last 50 years, and they're still not entering into these particular field as much as the men are because they're basically not interested. So if they're not interested, the data is there. Who should you be concentrating on entering this field in order to fill these gaps? Let's continue.
It takes me 10 minutes to inspect an inexperienced worker's work, and it takes me 3 minutes to inspect an experienced worker's work. It becomes exponential as you go down the line.
In 2024, GE hired 1,900 new engineers and manufacturing workers, but small companies are having a harder time recruiting.
80% of the maintenance facilities we represent are small businesses. They're doing it the same way they've always done it, by word of mouth, etc. A couple are very, very active in local schools.
It's changing. More and more states are looking to do aviation maintenance as a high school, or at least a hybrid high school college program.
But hiring isn't the only issue affecting the aerospace supply chain.
The biggest challenge we're having right now is getting new parts, engines. Training materials for us means like teardown engines or systems that are taken from other aircraft and put onto a board so we can teach students, troubleshoot the faults and so on. And that's been hard to get because there's a shortage of supplies.
While the labor force has faced shortages post-pandemic, it's also dealing with shifting trends. In 2022, a survey of unemployed people in the U.S. showed nearly half wouldn't take a job that didn't offer remote work, a benefit not likely for someone who needs to physically fix an aircraft.
Because there's been a paradigm shift caused by the pandemic. A lot of people now want to stay home, They don't want to go out and work. But the jobs that are needed to maintain and build our society and our infrastructures, we still have to get up and go out there. So for those entering the field or looking to advance their career, mechanic skills offer unique opportunities, focusing on specific areas. Not to mention the fact that today's generation, younger generation, all want to be influencers. I remember the days when it was significance for a boy growing up to be good with his hands. Now, the only thing they want to be good with is either a cell phone or a keyboard screen, or the handheld for a game machine. So that's basically where we are right now. It's sad to see where our society has gone, because those at the top who should be leading the charge are too busy focusing on other things instead of looking at what's important to maintain our infrastructure. Let's continue.
The entire world is going to feel this workforce shortage. You already can't get your houses built. I think that aerospace can actually, the recovery of that, because we do need and want.
But there's actually that happening. How often now you go to the airport to try to catch a flight, it has been pushed back or delayed, or there are certain days that you actually cannot get. You have to take connecting flights in order to get to where you want to go. This is one of the problems. And I'm glad CNBC is carrying this feature to emphasize on it. I actually did a feature on them over a year ago, explaining and bringing up the shortage of mechanics. But now they have gone further into the subset, explaining about the shortage of aviation mechanics. So it is a spillover. Let's continue.
And can train and have trained the elite when it comes to these blue-collar work jobs that are available.
More workers have also been pursuing tech jobs over blue collar.
For our folks in the repair station environment, the only barrier to entry is you having technical skills, knowing a screwdriver from a wrench, and the desire to learn, period.
Often what we see is people have a very dated view of what it might have looked like in the 1970s. I'd like to believe it's night and day, just in the physical condition.
Influence has a lot to do with it. Let me share a personal story. I was changing off my winter tires one day. Neighbor's kid was walking past and he offered to help. I said, sure. And he was very helping me to change out the tire, moving things around, using the torque. And I was explaining to him the different tools, and his eyes lit up as we were changing the tires, using the floor jack the car up. I was speaking to his mother and she says, yes, he's very inclined, learning new things. And I said, okay, nice. I was trying to explain to him that, being a mechanic, there are so many condos going up in and around Toronto right now. You'll hear me overemphasize this. I said, the next big thing right now is either aviation mechanic or an elevator mechanic. If you can get into one of these skill schools, try learning the basics, you will get there. Well, he did enter into a school. He's now learning to be a chef. So he says it's his mother's decision. So I can't interfere, but it is what it is.
In addition, the work that's being done, the amount of automation and technology, of course, having competitive compensation helps, but a lot of the investment in training that we've made in our workforce, providing more of a career path, is a key part of our retention.
The next generation of mechanics will also need to know about new technologies that are entering the space.
It is getting into the high schools and showing that a career in aerospace as an engineer, or frankly, on the production floor, is not your grandparents' manufacturing.
The demand on the air transport system will continue to grow as more people and goods will travel by air into the future. But the question remains on whether already strained industry will be able to fill the jobs it needs to keep up with demand.
The thing is, for those entering the field or looking to advance their careers, mechanic skills offer unique opportunities. So focusing on specific areas, you have EV maintenance, advanced driver assistance calibration, or integrated health management systems can make you a valuable asset in the industry. The drawback or a great benefit is that you have to engage in ongoing education and certification programs to ensure your skills remain relevant as the technology evolves.
Our white-collar world depends on blue-collar workers. We have to recognize that those ranks will have to be filled by one of two things: either more numbers or technology. the airlines and the big boys are going to be able to automate things. They're going to have to invest in that type of infrastructure.
As vehicles continue to evolve, the role of the mechanic will also transform, and the emphasis will shift from purely mechanical repairs to a combination of mechanical and technological problem solving. Mechanics will collaborate closely with software engineers and data analysts to provide comprehensive vehicle maintenance and repair services. The automotive industry's rapid technological advancements have created a pressing demand for skilled mechanics proficient in both traditional mechanic repairs and modern electric systems. They have to embrace continuous learning and adapting to new technologies. It will ensure you can secure a successful and fulfilling career in a field that is continuously evolving. The future of automotive maintenance is bright for those ready to meet the challenges head on. What are your thoughts on this? Share your experiences in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button to stay informed. Until next time.